Good morning, everybody. In today's video, we are going to take a look at the next 7 days. We're going to look at the precipitation forecast as well as the temperature forecast. Before we kick things off with this week, let's take a look at the last several weeks here. We're looking at the month-to-date temperature anomalies, and as you can see, much of the country is far below normal for this time of year. Anywhere in these purple and blues, we're looking at 10 to as much as 20 degrees below normal, which is really centered around the upper Midwest here, even down towards, really centering around the Mississippi River here. Even towards the Gulf Coast here, areas around like Houston, parts of southern Texas, anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees below normal. Of course, much of the East Coast here, anywhere in these greens, anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees below normal for this time of year. And the warm spot here across the United States is across the West Coast and parts of, much of Utah and Nevada, and still much of Utah and Arizona as well. Now, going forward here, we're going to look at the GFS, and we're going to look at the precipitation map here, the surface map. Going forward, we're going to take this out here to Monday afternoon here. We currently have a low pressure off the East Coast here. This is a nor'easter that will be making some impacts across the northeast here going forward into tonight as well as tomorrow, which could spread some wintry precipitation across the interior northeast. We're not looking at any huge amounts in terms of snowfall. In any case, this actually might produce more sleet and freezing rain for the interior, as the GFS is shown here in the pink. But again, nothing major, let's put it that way. Some rainfall across the coastal areas, of course, and you'll see as we take this forward into early Tuesday morning, across the parts of northern Maine, that's your best chance for any significant accumulations of whether it be sleet or snow. Other than that, most areas will see under 2 inches of sleet and snow accumulations. Parts of northern Maine might see a little bit more than that. Taking the GFS forward here out into early Wednesday morning. We have a low pressure system developing over the center of our country here. This is going to turn into a cutter. So many of us, anywhere from Iowa and points east, we're going to be on the warm side of this system. So that means just plain rainfall before the northern areas across the Dakotas, northern Minnesota. These areas, even back towards the Colorado Rockies, these areas will see snowfall from this system. And in some areas, especially in the elevated areas, we'll see significant snow. For the upper Midwest, it's more just going to be like lighter snowfall amounts. So that system kicks off to the north. This is now Thursday afternoon. And because of that, this system cutting through the Great Lakes here, across the East Coast, we'll see temperatures above normal for this time of year, which is quite different, obviously, from what we have been experiencing. But it's only a brief shot of warm air for 1, maybe 2 days at best. We'll look at the temperature anomalies here in a second. But taking this out into the weekend, we're going to clear that. Taking this out to this weekend here, we have an interesting system developing across the south. This is now early parts of Friday morning. And this system, we'll have to keep an eye on this. It could produce some interior snowfalls at first, especially farther, obviously, back towards Ohio and the far interior northeast. But what really draws our attention here, while this is more just a front here, and while it would produce some snowfall across the interior northeast, we're not looking at anything significant, just more on the light to moderate snowfall range. This low pressure developing down towards the south here, right over the South Carolina and Georgia border. That low pressure has our interest, because if it does develop and it heads north, this could put a lot of people, especially areas that haven't seen much snowfall yet, in a swath of at least accumulating snow. We don't want to use the word significant quite yet, but maybe a swath of snow going into Saturday and Sunday if this low pressure decides to develop and head north. Now, on this particular GFS run, this is the GFS run from last night, it takes it, and you can see it tries to develop some snowfall across West Virginia and far northern areas of Virginia, but mainly on the light side. This model run takes it and takes out to sea this run and kind of weakens it as well. So we don't really see much in the way of snowfall across the upper mid-Atlantic as well as northeast from the system, other than the original system that kind of is more like a rain to snow scenario, which we saw not too long ago across the northeast. And that scenario would not produce too much snowfall, but again, some accumulating snowfall. But again, this low pressure system, this is what we have our attention towards as we head to the weekend. This could produce the next chance for a widespread wintry threat. But for the rest of the country here, much of the country is relatively dry going into this weekend. And we'll take this out here just to Sunday because this is the end of our period we are looking at. And really not much going on Sunday. Some lake effect snows from this clipper that's up in Canada here. Right now it doesn't look anything major, just some average lake effect snowfall. And we do have a system entering out in the upper the northern west coast here up towards Seattle, which would obviously produce rain for the city areas and snow for the mountain regions. So we're going to take a look here now at the temperature anomalies for this upcoming week. And what we're looking at here is today. We're starting off across the east, anywhere from around average to slightly below average for this time of year, in pockets of 5 degrees or colder showing up here in the greens. Much of the west and central part of the United States is above normal for this time of year, which again, going back to our month to date temperature anomalies, you can see it's quite different from what we have been experiencing the last few weeks here. So going back to the temperature anomalies for this upcoming week, you'll see that the east stays relatively cold going forward. Now this is more seasonal cold. Again, it's only slightly below normal for this time of year. We'll have that cutter system heading up towards the upper Midwest here. Again, this is where I said that much of the east will see a day or two above average. But again, it's only because of this system that is cutting through the Great Lakes. And you can see the central part of the United States is well above normal as this system begins to cut. However, the northern side is below normal, and that's where you will see your wintry precip. So we're going to take this out here to Friday. So Friday morning, that's about when you're going to see your warm shot, if you want to call it that, across the east. But again, the reinforcement of this cold air is not too far behind that burst of warm air. And as we get into the weekend, much of the country is once again below normal for this time of year. And we'll just top it out here at Sunday. And we're really not looking at anything too significant in terms of cold or warmth. But if you want to say the southeast here is anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees colder for this time of year, while the rest of us are more closer to average, especially out towards the upper Midwest here, and a bit above average across the west coast. Alright, so now what everybody wants to look at is our snowfall map. Now this is not our snowfall map, I should say that. It's the GFS, the same model that we were previously looking at the surface. We're just going to briefly look at this here. We have our first system out in the northeast, that nor'easter. The GFS shows us pretty well that how the northern parts of Maine could see accumulating snow out of the system, more so than other areas. This particular model shows anywhere from 2 to isolated pockets of 6 inches of snow across northern Maine. 6 inches is well, definitely on the high side. I would favor more 2 to 4 for those areas, but nevertheless, it is accumulating snow. Aside from that system, really not much going on for the first couple days here. As we head into Wednesday, the cutter system begins to develop, and you can see this area of snow expanding across the northern United States. There's a pretty decent swath of 2 to 5, 2 to 6 inches going across into the Dakotas here. And then, again, as I said before, these amounts will be light across the upper Midwest. Your heavier snows will be back towards Colorado Rockies, but these snows are very elevation dependent, as you can see, going from anywhere from 10 inches to absolutely nothing in these areas. Now this is valid for Thursday afternoon here. Again, this is our cutter here. That's why these parts of Canada is actually seeing some pretty decent snows out of this. But for the rest of us, just some lighter amounts. Again, except if you live in the Colorado Rockies in the higher elevations. Now I'm just going to take this out here to Saturday. So this is now the rain to snow scenario showing up on Saturday here on the GFS. Now remember, what's in northern Maine here, that's all from the next 48 hours. So you got to subtract that when I take this out here to Saturday. So again, the rain and snow scenario would be lighter amounts. If I have to call some numbers here, just maybe like a 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches. But again, that's if that happens. Our more important scenario, or storm I should say, would be this storm system that develops. Let's go back to it. Would be this storm system that develops down in the south here on Saturday morning. If this takes a track up to the East Coast, these areas across the upper mid-Atlantic into Pennsylvania, northern parts of Delaware and New Jersey, these areas could see a decent amount of accumulating snow if that storm does take a track up the East Coast. Now that's all ifs at this point. When we look at the individual ensemble runs, some members do bring that storm up the coast, and bring several inches of snow. And many of those areas have not seen any accumulating snow yet. Some areas have seen snow fall, just nothing accumulate. Alright, now we're taking a look at our temperature and precipitation forecast. For the temperatures across the next week, below average conditions can be expected across the East Coast, as only one day of the week, maybe 2 days at best, will they see temperatures warmer than average as that cutter system cuts to the north here. And much of the central and western areas will see temperatures above average for this time of year. Anywhere that's not colored, just expect average temperatures. And looking at our precipitation forecast, we do have parts of northern Maine seeing some precipitation a little bit more than what you would normally expect for this upcoming week, as well as much of the central United States here, mainly due to the cutter system that will drop some rain and some even snow in these areas, and across the Colorado Rockies back here, plenty of snow in the elevations. We do expect slightly below average, or I should say expect drier conditions across northern Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, much of Ohio, and all of Pennsylvania, and honestly much of the Northeast in general. The only thing that could change this forecast is if that storm system that we have our eye on takes a track further up north. Right now we do have it sliding out to sea, so that's why we do expect some wetter than normal conditions across the south here. And then of course the upper Midwest, the upper West Coast here, or Seattle and Portland, drier than normal conditions can be expected. Tomorrow we will have our updated winter anomalies month by month, so keep it here for that, and we'll have much more going forward as we progress quickly into the winter months. I hope you guys have a great Monday.